It's almost impossible to find someone in this world that you will agree with everything on. Every single subject, every single topic, every single opinion. It's impossible. You will never agree with someone on everything. So, in saying that, disagreement is actually a part of life. It's a part of being an adult. But the problem is that disagreement has become unacceptable these days. We've actually taught people that disagreement is bad. Disagreement is not bad. It's actually a very neutral thing. You know, again, part of being an adult is understanding that people have different worldviews because they have different experiences, they have different motives, they have different morals and values, and not every single moral or value or differing opinion that goes against yours is bad or evil. Somewhere along the line, we took away the ability to disagree with people. We took away the option to disagree with people. And now people think that if someone disagrees with you on really any topic, or even just the person you voted for, that they deserve to die. And this is incredibly dangerous territory that we've entered here, and I don't even think that we realize it. Not only that, but it's very low IQ activities, and I don't think that we're realizing this. People have lower IQ, less patience, less tolerance to ideas that just don't align with theirs. And what we should be learning is that it's okay to not agree with people. Disagreement, the art of civil disagreement, should be taught in schools and beyond. But what's happening is that schools are teaching you that if someone disagrees with you, to take it as a personal attack. Not only that, but it's actually violence, and you need a safe space away from those who disagree with you. And also the status quo, the only opinion you should have is a liberal, woke, progressive-leaning opinion. Again, these are dangerous ideas, and people are going to end up hurt, dead, ostracized, and stupid. So that's what we're talking about today. Welcome to Treu Sovereignty, where we are mastering our minds so we can reclaim our peace. And on this channel, we intertwine self-improvement with critical thinking because, my God, you can't have one without the other. If you don't understand yourself, you're not going to understand the world around you. Sorry. That's just not how it works. If you're looking to gain more knowledge about the world around you, become more intelligent, become more able to critically think for yourself, you need to be able to love yourself, understand yourself, because both things are complex, and your inner world reflects your outer world. So that's what I teach you on this channel, because I, like many others, used to be quite closed-minded and defensive about the opinions I had. And now I'm not, because I took the time to actually heal my wounds and get to know myself. And that's freedom, baby. So, if anything, I want you to be free on this channel. And think for yourself. I don't want you to always be agreeing with me. I want to get you to think. If I'm getting you to think about the opinions that you already hold, that's a win. If I'm getting you to think deeper about yourself, that's a win. If I'm triggering you, sorry, that's a win. I'm not trying to troll, but when you're triggered, you have to understand it's actually showing you that that's something within you that you need to work on. It's actually a gift to be triggered. But anyway, take a look at my community in the comments. Everybody's very intelligent, intellectual, and respectful, and that's what we're here for. We're here to open everybody's minds and tell everybody that it's okay if we disagree, it's okay if we agree, it's okay if you tell me that I totally changed your mind, and it's okay if you tell me you never want to come back here again. Because this channel is a free thinker channel, and that's what this channel is for. So, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I don't know if I already said that, but let's get into this video. So I had this video idea circling around in my head for a while now. I have a lot of video ideas circling around in my head and being written down and whatnot. But something happened that really made me think, okay, now's the time to make this particular video. And it was a comment I had on my last video. And, to make a long story short, he was upset that we disagreed with each other. Okay. If you subscribed to me thinking that we're always going to agree with each other, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be disappointed. I made a video a while back on how I supported ICE, and I lost so many subscribers, probably like 20, 30 subscribers. As a small channel, that is huge. So you work hard for 10 subscribers, let alone 20 or 30. I get it. If we just totally fundamentally disagree upon something and you want to unsubscribe, that's fantastic. That's your freedom. That is your freedom of choice. And we have that here on YouTube. But the disagreement wasn't even about the fundamental topic of the video. The disagreement was on semantics. So the meaning of the words that I was using, which I thought was quite silly because the point of the video that I had made, it had a very, solid point that I was trying to make. I wasn't trying to go into the gray areas of the topic, which was empathy. I wasn't trying to dive into other types of empathy. I was only trying to dive in the generalized term of empathy. I was not arguing if you're a good person or a bad person if you have empathy. I actually don't think that anyone's fully good or fully bad. Not one person on this planet is. Number one. Number two, I don't think you're good or bad if you either have empathy or don't have empathy. And number three, that was not the point of the video at all in any way, shape, or form. I think actually the point of the video flew right over his head. And I was trying to redirect him to what the point of the video actually was. Not trying to argue semantics, the meaning of words, trying to argue, or not even argue, but redirect what he thought the video was about. Because what he was essentially arguing to a wall. Because if I make a video about how to make a cherry pie, and you're telling me that I didn't make my blueberry pie correct, now we're arguing about nothing because I didn't even make a blueberry pie in the video. I made a cherry pie. Yes, they're both pies. Absolutely, I will agree with that. But they're two very different pies, and they take two very different ingredients in order to make them. So that's kind of what the argument reminded me of. It wasn't really an argument, it was a discussion or whatever. But it wasn't that he disagreed with me. That is what took me aback, because we're always going to disagree. I've had many people disagree with me in my comments. I have a damn TikTok, for Christ's sake. People disagree with the way I dress, with the way I look. Totally negating the point of my videos. So yeah, I disagree with people all the fucking time, unfortunately. What took me aback was that he was so upset that we were having a disagreement that he made a comment about how he subscribed because he thought he was joining a channel where we could have intellectual discussion and debate and understanding. And I mentioned to him that I didn't think that he was trying to have an intellectual conversation or debate. I think he just wanted me to agree with him. And that's what it sounded like. And, that's why I preface with, if you're subscribed to me because you think we're going to agree with each other all the time, you might as well unsubscribe now. Because that's just not what this channel is for. If anything, I would actually like this channel to make you think differently about your preconceived notions of life, yourself, and world events. Even if only ever so slightly, I never thought about that one before. Doesn't have to be drastic. I'm not trying to change your life or anything. Just trying to make you think a little differently. But that was the thing that struck me as odd. Because if you subscribe to, I'm subscribed to many, many podcasts, all of which are fairly complex in their topics. They talk about a lot of different things, a lot of in-depth topics. So somewhere along the lines, I'm probably going to disagree with either one of the videos or something that the host says. It's almost impossible not to. If the host says something that I think is not correct or I just don't agree with it, I don't unsubscribe and say, now this whole podcast is stupid. Now the whole podcast is null and void because of what they said. Now, don't get me wrong, if they did something drastic, like if I found out the podcast host liked little children, obviously, now that's a null and void type of podcast. But if I just disagree with what they think or a certain topic of the day, I don't really give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. And I feel like everybody today is just a whiny pussy. They can't hear a differing opinion without getting all mad and fussed. And their panties in a bunch. And another thing I want to point out is just because you disagree with someone doesn't make that human stupid. It doesn't make that person stupid. And you can hope that the person looking at you also doesn't think you're stupid just because you disagree with them. Just because you disagree with me doesn't make me stupid, and just because I disagree with you doesn't make you stupid. Even if I think your disagreement is a little silly, it doesn't mean I think you're stupid or have any less respect for you. Now I want to get into the fact that when you're immature, you can't disagree. You can't process disagreement. And how to recognize that. Whether it's within yourself or somebody else, because you can't argue with an immature person. You just can't. It's like arguing with a child. Versus arguing with a mature person, I'll show you kind of like the signs and symptoms of each. So immaturity and maturity are on a spectrum. So just because you have some of these traits doesn't necessarily mean you're totally immature or that you've failed at life. It just means you might have some things to work on and some things to pay attention to when you're discussing things with somebody. Because mature people can quickly suss you out and realize they're not arguing with someone of the same caliber as them, and they will quickly leave the conversation. So the first symptom would be rapid heart rate, or any physical changes that mimic either anxiety or anger or anything like that. If you notice rapid heart rate when someone is disagreeing with you, and you can't hold back on acting upon that, you might be taking something personally. So the next is, you feel personally offended or attacked when someone disagrees with you, especially on a topic that really has nothing to do with you. Like, for example, I understand if you feel personally attacked if you're gay and someone doesn't believe in gay marriage. But even still, I don't even feel personally offended. At this point, I'm gay. I don't feel personally offended if someone doesn't believe in gay marriage. I think I'm friends with a few people who don't believe in gay marriage. I don't give a fuck. Most things in life are just not about you. And once you realize that, it's very freeing. Your ego is in control. That's another symptom. You know your ego is at the center of your life when you're just very defensive and you're taking everything personally and you're angry and you're sad and you're upset and you're offended. Your ego has taken the wheel, and that's not good. You pull out the name calling. You start hitting below the belt and you start calling them a stupid moron, an idiot, any ad hominem attacks. Oh, just tripped. That's how you know you're arguing with an immature person. Another thing is when they start to raise their voice and even yell or scream. Oof, this is bad. Bad, bad, bad. I'm of the belief that you really shouldn't yell at anybody, ever, unless absolutely necessary, of course, but especially a stranger or a friend or a partner that you're disagreeing with. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Temper tantrums goes along with that, having an adult temper tantrum because someone doesn't agree with you. Automatically thinking the other person is evil or a moron or an idiot because they disagree with you. Now, if I met somebody, for example, that was actually racist, like they were actually a white supremacist, I wouldn't necessarily go immediately to, I think that they're evil. I would go to, They probably grew up around this type of thought, or they have surrounded themselves with people with this type of thought. They're looking to be included somehow. They're running off of low education, so they might not have many minorities in their life for them to see that they're just normal people, right? They're going off of misconceptions and stereotypes only, which is low IQ. So, if anything, I'm going to logically break down what's going on in their mind and their psyche before I just revert to evil. Like, the only evil in this world, really, is if you desire to murder somebody, or if you desire to hurt children in any way, or if you desire to hurt people in any way, or hurt animals in any way. Like, to me, that's evil. Not just having opinions, you know? I don't think having opinions, even if they're really bad opinions, is necessarily evil. So you kind of learn to break down what is actually evil. I mean, technically, is there even such a thing as evil in this world, or is it all just something that went wrong in the brain? You know? Because evil is more of like a spiritual term. But now we're getting in deep here. That's an argument on evil itself and if evil actually exists. And then lastly, are you putting feelings over logic? If your feelings are triumphing facts, research, articles, citing your sources, you know, stating just logical, common sense reasoning, and the feelings are getting in the way of that, like, no. You said that and that hurt me, so therefore you're wrong. Just because you're offended doesn't mean the other person is wrong. And that's something that we also need to learn. Disagreement is not wrong, and you being offended does not make that other person wrong either. So we need to learn that shit. So the most important thing when you're arguing with someone or disagreeing with someone is staying calm. Calm, cool, and collected. Because technically, if you're disagreeing, especially about a topic that is a world issue, this should not be involving your feelings, really. And even if it does, you can still stay calm. That is a possibility. But here's what a mature person does in an argument or a disagreement. They stay open to learning something new, and they ask questions. They stay curious. They don't enter the argument thinking, I'm right and they're wrong. They enter saying, I have an opinion, this is my opinion, but I'm open to compromise and meeting in the middle. They're open to also agreeing to disagree. You know, we might end this argument and we might end this disagreement on opposite sides of the spectrum, and that's okay. We don't have to ruin our friendship or our family relationship or our romantic relationship or whatever it is just because we're not aligning with each other. You realize that the other person is coming from a totally different life angle than you. Even if you guys agree with a lot of things, you're still totally different humans living a totally different reality. And they're not you and you're not them. So obviously, disagreement is going to happen. And, you know, even if you guys are related and you have a similar life experience, even if you come from the same family, they might do different research than you do. They might read different articles or consume different media. You try to find a common ground. If you're not agreeing and the conversation is not going very well, you at the very least try to say, well, can you at least agree with me on this? Because I can guarantee liberals and Republicans can agree on very broad topics. They might not agree on the little tiny things, but I think we can all agree that we'd love to have freedom, more money, less government power, more power to the people, more freedoms, more affordability, more peace, less war, less taxation. There are so many things that we can agree upon, but we focus on the little tiny things that we're not agreeing upon. So if anything, we can at least try to find some type of common ground. Like, well, can you at least accept this portion of the argument? And if someone's not budging even on that, then they're just stubborn and you have to accept that they're stubborn. Mature people stay calm and they realize that none of it is personal. You don't hold your opinions as a part of who you are. Like, I might have more conservative opinions, but I don't consider that who I am. I don't think I'm Emily Treu, a conservative-leaning moderate. Like, I don't add that to my repertoire of what makes me me. I really don't. So therefore, I don't really get offended or take it as an attack or become really disappointed when someone doesn't agree with me. Mature people will laugh and make jokes when they're disagreeing with someone to keep things light. They know how to de-escalate a situation as opposed to escalating a situation. So if they see that it's getting a little heated, they can either say, whoa, 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 like, let's take a deep breath, let's take a step back, I didn't mean to make you angry, that wasn't my intention. Or they'll just make a joke and laugh and say, whatever. I can't think of an example at the moment, but again, they try to use logic over their emotions. So they'll pull up like articles or information they've gathered or books they've read to defend their opinions, as opposed to just saying, well, this opinion hurt my feelings, so therefore I'm with the other opinion. And you're hurting my feelings, so therefore you're bad and mean. They tame their ego. The ego does not control them. The ego is tamed successfully. So they don't take everything personally. They're not defensive. They're not on the defense. They're not up at battle for themselves. They're just chill. They're just relaxing. They're just trying to have a good time. They're just trying to express what they believe and what they've learned. And honestly, they just want you to understand. Even if you leave the conversation still disagreeing, they still want you to just, at the very least, understand where they're coming from. They will check in from time to time to make sure everything is okay and that they haven't really upset you or hurt your feelings or anything. They will keep the petty arguments or the sarcasm to a minimum. They will not use below-the-belt insults or petty commentary to make their point. For example, there was a debate between Destiny and Konstantin Kissin, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And we could tell who's the mature one and the immature one in the conversation, but they both do use some immature tactics. I'm not gonna, obviously I agree with Konstantin. I think Konstantin's an incredibly intelligent, awesome human being, and I admire him more than anything else. And I think Destiny is kind of a loser. But just because I disagree with Destiny and agree with Konstantin doesn't mean that's not why I noticed the incredible immaturity of Destiny. Like, constant interrupting, not letting Konstantin answer his question, and then stating that Konstantin wasn't answering his questions when he wouldn't even let him answer his questions. So, again, I will admit, despite the fact that I do admire Konstantin, he had some immature tactics, and I think everybody does when they're arguing with someone who's immature, okay? We're not perfect, we're human, and if you're having a heated debate with someone who's really immature, you might notice yourself kind of stooping to their level. Not fully, but a little bit. You will notice that you stoop to their levels, and you can't really help it sometimes, because again, we're just humans. We're not perfect, so. But I think, if anything, Konstantin handled it really well. I suggest going to watch that debate, and you can see kind of the blatant difference between someone who's mature and educated versus someone who's really immature and not necessarily uneducated, but letting their feelings and their ego overtake their level of intelligence. Unfortunately, when you let ego win, you lower your intelligence. Doesn't mean you're not intelligent, but you can always raise your intelligence, and you can always lower your intelligence. And that's one way to lower it. And then lastly, just realizing that any disagreement doesn't have to be a deal breaker in a relationship. If it is, you're perfectly fine to go your separate ways in a calm, cool, collected manner. There's definitely been times where I might tell somebody to please leave my channel because they're either harassing me or whatever, not just because we disagree, but because they've crossed the line of harassment. That's definitely happened, but I don't say like, you're a stupid moron, leave my channel. I just say, hey, we're not disagreeing. I feel uncomfortable. Let's go our separate ways. And that is perfectly fine and perfectly a human, natural thing to do. It doesn't have to be some sort of a big, explosive declaration of, I thought you were better than this. I thought you, it's like, just fuck off, man. Just go, leave. But yeah, that's how you can tell the difference. And I definitely recommend watching that debate between Destiny and Constantine. So I kind of already touched on this, and I touch on this a lot, that today you can no longer disagree with someone, whether slightly or fundamentally, without them being or feeling personally attacked or wanting to go to the extreme and call you horrific labels and even maybe want you dead. These types of people will tend to put a label on you that in the past might have caused something in you to want to defend yourself. For example, racist, Nazi, bigot, homophobic, transphobic, or even evil. Now in the past, maybe 10 years ago, any fairly good-hearted person would be like, whoa, I'm not a Nazi, I'm not racist. How could you possibly think that? And then we'd rush to defend ourselves, and we'd rush to try to prove that we're not. Now these words don't mean anything, unfortunately. And I think it is unfortunate. I think these words have been watered down, and they're now being used as an excuse. If I can call you a Nazi, I can kill you, or I can hurt you, or I can harm you, or I can call you names, or I can actually step out of character of the mature human being. I can stop being mature and act out my anger upon you. You know that saying like, punch a Nazi? It's like, what? Now we're all about violence. The peaceful people who say, we need peace, not war, we need to respect each other and be tolerant of each other, are now promoting violence. But only against those we disagree with, so it's okay. So it's okay to kill people, to call people names, to abuse people verbally and physically, to murder people. It's okay, as long as you disagree with them. As long as you disagree, then it's okay. Then there are no consequences. This is dangerous. This is dangerous territory that we are already in. This is not something we are moving towards. We're already in the thick of it. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk. He was just trying to promote freedom of speech and trying to actually save kids in the universities being indoctrinated into a cult-like mindset. And he was labeled a Nazi, a racist, a bigot. And so they shot him dead. And it's gonna happen again and again and again. And it's gonna be worse and worse and worse. Over and over and over again. If we stop talking to each other. His MO or his saying or his kind of slogan was like, if we stop talking to each other, that's when we start killing each other. And that's pretty much what's happening. Society is going to eat itself from the inside out. If respectful disagreement didn't exist, we wouldn't have new ideas. We wouldn't have epiphanies. We wouldn't be learning. learning would never happen. If we didn't have civil disagreement, we would just be killing each other. If we didn't allow people to think differently than us, we wouldn't have freedom of speech. We would have 1984, dystopian horror movie, Hunger Games. Society is going to crumble without the art of civil disagreement. So I'm asking you today, I'm just asking you to do this one thing. Go out into the world, and from this point on, allow disagreement. Invite disagreement. Prefer disagreement. Get curious. Stay civil. Even if the other person isn't. I'm not saying go out and poke around and debate with people, especially if you know that these people are volatile. I'm not saying go out and get hurt and whatnot, but for anything, I'm not saying even world issues. Practice disagreeing and disagreeing in a mature manner. And don't be afraid to disagree with people. It's not gonna happen every day. It might catch you off guard. Might happen once a month, once every 5 months. You might have a big disagreement with somebody. It'll be especially prevalent if you have a family, children, a spouse, or you live with your immediate family, or you're very close to your friends. Disagreements might pop up more often than not. Co-workers. But the next time you have a disagreement, big, medium, small, practice the art of civil disagreement. And be the change that you want to see. Be the inspiration, be the example. And that is how you can change the world, is being able to civilly disagree. And definitely ignore those who are really abusive and scary and want to kill you. Just ignore those people, because they're not going to change. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, give me a comment. Tell me if you agree or disagree, because guess what? I don't give a fuck. But I do want to know. I do want to know. I don't give a fuck if you disagree with me. You're welcome here. Even if you disagree with every one of my videos, but you think what I say has some type of a merit, I love that you're here. And feel free to join the community. But, until next time, I'll see you in the next video.